Typhoons are known to be one of the most devastating forces of nature. Its occurrence brings about the loss of lives, homes, and livelihoods. Let us get to know this natural calamity, starting off with how they are made.
A typhoon is a mature tropical cyclone that develops between 180 degrees and 100 degrees east in the northern hemisphere. This region is referred to as the Northwestern Pacific Basin and is the most active tropical cyclone basin on Earth, accounting for almost one-third of the world's annual tropical cyclones. Typhoons start off as tropical thunderstorms. A typhoon forms when winds blow into areas of the ocean where the water is warm. These winds collect moisture and rise while colder air moves in below. This creates pressure, which causes the winds to move very quickly. The winds rotate or spin around a center called an eye. The more warm air and moisture there is, the more intense the winds. While typhoons can occur any time of the year, the conditions are most likely to be right for them to happen between June and November. Typically, typhoon disruption lasts about one day, although in the case of a direct hit, effects could linger for a while longer.
Wind flow of hurricanes in the southern hemisphere is clockwise, while the wind of the hurricanes in the northern hemisphere is counterclockwise.
Typhoons, hurricanes, and cyclones. Some people might get confused about these three. So, what is the difference between a hurricane, a typhoon, and a cyclone? The answer is nothing. They are just different names for the same type of storm depending on where in the world the storm occurs. All three names are used to describe large rotating storm systems that develop over warm tropical waters. A storm becomes classified as hurricane, typhoon, or cyclone when the winds within them exceeds 74 miles per hour. In the Atlantic and Southeast Pacific, the term hurricane is used. In the Northwest Pacific, they are known as typhoons. In the South Pacific and Indian Ocean, they are called cyclones.
Here are the things to do before a typhoon. First, inspect and clean up your house, especially your drainage system. Check to see if there is a need to fix your house, such as holes on your roofs, damaged doors, windows, or your ceilings. Have them fixed as soon as possible. Do check as well your drainage system if there's clogging. Next, store ample amount of ready-to-eat foods and water. Make sure that the foods and water that you will store is adequate enough for you and your family and will last for a few days. Ready-to-eat foods such as canned or packed foods are especially helpful when cooking is no longer feasible. If you have a second or third floors or any part in your house that is elevated, have your things, especially those that generate electricity, placed in there. This will keep water from coming in contact with these stuffs. Always keep yourself updated with the latest weather report. If possible, harvest crops that can be yielded already. Also secure your domesticated animals in a safe place. For fisher folks, place your boats in a safe area. And if there is a need to evacuate, please do so. And bring clothes, first aid kit, candles or flashlight, battery-powered radio, and other personal necessities.
So, we will now talk about what to do during a typhoon. First, do not cause panic and stay calm. If no advice to evacuate, then stay inside your house. Second, keep posted and monitor the typhoon's movement through television, radio, or internet. Third, if you see signs of water rising, better turn off main sources of electricity and keep your electric powered items stored in higher areas and refrain from using them. Fourth, Do not walk along flooded areas to keep yourself from contacting waterborne diseases. Wear protective gear such as raincoats and boots to protect yourself. And lastly, if you are told to evacuate, then calmly comply.
What to do after a typhoon? Number 1. Watch out for live wires or any electrical outlets that may be submerged in water. Number 2. Do not plug in and use appliances and other electrical devices that have been flooded. Number 3. Wear protective gear such as boots. Leptospirosis, a waterborne disease, do not only spread out during a typhoon, but also after, as the bacteria that causes this disease may still be present in moist soils or scattered debris. Number 4. Boil water before drinking, as we may not know whether it is contaminated. Number 5. We must clean up and dispose things, as these are possible grounds for mosquitoes to breed. Number 6. Keep posted and monitor the news frequently to be alerted for any new coming typhoon in the Philippines.
Let's talk about typhoons. So first typhoon I'm going to talk about is Typhoon Haiphong. So Typhoon Haiphong was a typhoon that happened near Vietnam. So it occurred around November 8, 1881, and it's one of the most devastating events in history. Like, ravaged the land, and it was before meteorological advances. So people had no means of like identify what category it was, but it was like way up there, like very high, and because it killed 300,000 people. 300,000 people and damaged all the coastal areas. So, Typhoon Haiphong, number 1. Next would be Typhoon Haiyan. Everybody knows about Typhoon Haiyan. And it's one of the most devastating typhoons in history. Like, I experienced Typhoon Haiyan myself. And it killed it killed 6,300 people and left the entire city in ruins. Let me repeat, it left the entire city in ruins. Everything was destroyed. Oh my God. I experienced like what happened to those people. So Typhoon Haiyan, seriously, sucks. I know it sucked. There was no food for days. People had a rough time. Like, relief goods were the only means of people eating actual food. So Typhoon Haiyan. Second, now we're going to talk about last typhoon, which will be Typhoon Nina, that occurred in July 30, 1975. It was the 4th most destructive typhoon in history, according to history, which I have just searched right now. It occurred in China, in Bangqiao Dam, Zhuhaidian City in China, and it had a death toll of around 229,000 people died because of that typhoon. Oh man. So people, please be prepared. Typhoons are no joke.
Hi guys, I'm here to talk about 3 of the 10 worst typhoons ever recorded. Number 1, Typhoon Nancy, which happened on September 12, 1961. The places that experienced the most destruction of this typhoon is Japan and Guam. Typhoon Nancy was considered a Category 5 super typhoon which hit the land with 215 miles per hour winds. It currently holds the rank of the longest lasting Category 5 equivalent typhoon, which took 191 lives. Next is the Typhoon Wanda, which happened a year after on August 27, 1962 until September 1, 1962 in Hong Kong. It is the most intense tropical cyclone in Hong Kong. Unlike Typhoon Nancy, Typhoon Wanda is considered a Category 2 typhoon. Although it was only on the 2nd category typhoon, it wrecked more than 2,000 boats, left 72,000 people homeless, and 130 people lost their lives to this tragedy. Last is the Typhoon Maggie, which is the Korean for catfish. Like Typhoon Nancy, Typhoon Maggie was considered a Category 5 typhoon in the northwestern Pacific. It made a landfall in the Philippines.
So for the 5th one, here is the Typhoon Ida, it is the sixth deadliest typhoon to hit Japan, and it occurred September 20, 1958. So landslide caused by this Category 5 super typhoon destroyed thousands of buildings and swept away 244 road and railway bridges. So more than 120,000 hectares of rice fields were covered with 2-foot tides. Can you imagine that one? So the Kano, Meguro, and Arakawa rivers flooded and spilled into the piers and destroyed houses, shrines, and stores. So in addition to the 1,269 lives Ida claimed, it also left 12,000 people homeless. Super sad. So on the fifth one, here is Typhoon Sara, another Category 5 super typhoon that occurred September 11, 1959 in the countries of Japan and South Korea. So Sara's high winds and rain destroyed thousands of homes, ruined $1 million of crops, and caused extreme flooding and left thousands homeless. So the sources here claim that there were like 1,869 lives that were lost. So and for the sixth top worst typhoons, here is Typhoon Vera. So out of the many typhoons Japan has suffered throughout its history, Typhoon Vera was the strongest and the deadliest. So this Category 5 superstorm began on September 20, 1959. Can you imagine that one? On September 11, there will Japan suffered from Typhoon Sara, and 9 days after, there's another typhoon, which is Typhoon Vera. Wow. So through heavy rains, enormous waves, and powerful winds, it destroyed thousands of homes, ruined crops, and flooded rivers. So in total, it left 1.5 million homeless and took the lives of 5,000 others. So for the fifth one, here is Typhoon Nancy, and it occurred September 12, 1961. So the nations of Guam and Japan experienced the destructive power of Typhoon Nancy. So as a Category 5 super typhoon, Nancy hit to land with 215 millimeter per hour winds, and it currently holds the rank of the longest lasting Category 5 equivalent hurricane in the Northern Hemisphere, and it took 191 lives. Can you imagine that one? Every year, Japan would experience super typhoons, and I just noticed that in every September of the year, Japan would encounter super typhoons.